Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we step into one of the darkest, most disturbing, and psychologically complex chapters of modern history, a story that began with hope, equality, and promises of justice, but ended in control, isolation, fear, and a tragedy that shocked the entire world. This is the story behind Jonestown, the cult led by Jim Jones, and how power over belief slowly turned into one of the most devastating mass deaths ever recorded. Our story begins in the 1950s, in the United States, during a time of racial segregation, social inequality, and widespread distrust in institutions. Jim Jones presented himself as a man of the people, a passionate preacher who spoke openly about racial equality, social justice, and caring for the poor. He founded a movement called the People's Temple, which on the surface appeared to stand for everything good: unity across races, communal living, shared resources, and support for the marginalized. Many people who joined were not foolish or weak. They were idealists, teachers, workers, parents, and young people searching for purpose, belonging, and a better world. Jones offered them exactly that, creating soup kitchens, helping the homeless, and building a community that felt like family. Over time, however, Jim Jones' personality began to change. His sermons shifted from hope to authority. He demanded loyalty, framed himself as the sole source of truth, and slowly isolated members from outsiders by claiming the world was dangerous, corrupt, and hostile to them. Members were encouraged to cut ties with family, give up possessions, and trust only the temple. What began as community slowly turned into control. Jones used fear, emotional manipulation, and exhaustion to maintain power: long meetings, public confessions, constant surveillance, and punishment disguised as discipline. He claimed enemies were everywhere: government agencies, the media, former members, and convinced followers that only he could protect them. As scrutiny from journalists and authorities increased in the 1970s, Jones made a dramatic decision. He would move his followers to a remote settlement in South America, a place he promised would be a socialist paradise free from oppression. That place became known as Jonestown, deep in the jungles of Guyana. For many members, the move was not truly a choice. Pressure, fear, and emotional dependence guided them. When they arrived, reality was far different from the dream. Jonestown was isolated, overcrowded, and heavily controlled. Armed guards monitored the perimeter. Communication with the outside world was limited. Daily life was exhausting: long hours of labor, limited food, and constant propaganda through loudspeakers that broadcast Jim Jones' voice day and night. He spoke of betrayal, danger, and loyalty, reinforcing the idea that leaving meant death or destruction. Over time, fear replaced faith. Jones' mental state deteriorated further, fueled by paranoia and substance abuse. He staged rehearsals for what he called white nights, emergency drills where members were told they must be ready to die rather than be captured by enemies. These events blurred the line between fear and obedience, slowly normalizing the unthinkable. Despite the isolation, concerns from the outside world grew louder. Families begged for answers. Former members spoke out. In 1978, U.S. Congressman Leo Ryan traveled to Guyana to investigate claims of abuse. At first, Jonestown appeared calm and welcoming, but behind the scenes, tension was rising. Some members quietly asked for help, desperate to leave. When Congressman Ryan and defectors attempted to depart, violence erupted at a nearby airstrip, leaving Ryan and others dead. This moment marked the point of no return. Back in Jonestown, Jim Jones declared that their enemies were coming, that their experiment had failed, and that the only way to maintain control over their destiny was to end their lives together. What followed was not chaos, but chilling obedience. Years of psychological conditioning had stripped many members of independent thought. Families, parents, and children were caught in a system where resistance felt impossible. By the time authorities arrived, Jonestown had become a symbol of how belief, when twisted by fear and control, can lead to unimaginable outcomes. The world was left asking the same haunting questions that remain today: how did so many people follow one man so completely? How did a movement built on equality transform into total domination? Psychologists, historians, and sociologists have since studied Jonestown extensively, concluding that this was not blind faith alone, but a gradual process of manipulation, isolation, exhaustion, fear, and the promise of purpose that broke down critical thinking over time. Jonestown stands today as a warning, not just about cults, but about unchecked authority, charismatic leadership, and what happens when questioning is replaced by obedience. It reminds us that intelligence does not make someone immune to manipulation, and that the desire for belonging can be both powerful and dangerous. Ladies and gentlemen, the story of Jonestown is not just about one man or one place. It is about how control can hide behind kindness, how ideals can be exploited, and how vigilance, transparency, and critical thinking are essential in any community. Thank you for joining me on this deep exploration of a tragedy that changed history forever. Until next time, stay aware, stay questioning, and stay safe.